inside the first living AI chip and why GPUs are obsolete. For decades, the world of computing has revolved around one central architecture, the transistor-driven chip. Whether in CPUs, GPUs, or the latest neural accelerators, everything we've built in artificial intelligence has depended on electronic circuits flipping between ones and zeros. But in 2025, something revolutionary is happening. Researchers and companies are unveiling the first living AI chips, hybrid biological electronic processors that don't just simulate intelligence but begin to think in fundamentally new ways. These chips don't mimic neurons. They are neurons, cultured and integrated into silicon frameworks. And their emergence may mark the end of the GPU era entirely. To understand the magnitude of this leap, imagine the difference between a photograph of a forest and an actual living forest. GPUs, no matter how powerful, are the photograph, frozen patterns of data trying to imitate organic complexity. Living AI chips, on the other hand, are the forest itself. Adaptive, self-repairing, self-optimizing, and deeply interconnected. They don't need terabytes of training data or petaflops of power to learn. They evolve learning patterns directly within their biological substrate. What once required months of GPU computation could, in theory, occur in seconds through real-time neural adaptation. At the heart of this revolution is neuromorphic bioengineering, the blending of biological tissue with advanced semiconductor frameworks. These chips are being built with clusters of lab-grown neurons interfaced through nanoscale electrodes, allowing real-time interaction between living cells and digital systems. Unlike GPUs that depend on massive parallelization and rigid logic gates, living AI chips process information through emergent activity patterns, chemical signals, electrical spikes, and protein-based feedback loops. In essence, they bring the adaptability of the human brain into a form that can be scaled, networked, and programmed. The first successful demonstrations already hint at their power. In early 2025, several research groups, most notably in Australia, the US, and South Korea, announced prototypes capable of solving pattern recognition problems without any traditional training phase. These chips didn't run TensorFlow or PyTorch models. Instead, they formed memory traces within their biological network, strengthening or weakening pathways in response to stimuli. That means the chip itself learns from experience, exactly like the neurons in your brain do. It's the closest we've ever come to synthetic cognition, and it may redefine what it even means to call something artificial intelligence. One of the most striking differences is energy efficiency. GPUs are computational behemoths, requiring enormous amounts of power to simulate the parallelism of human thought. Training a large model like GPT or Stable Diffusion can consume megawatts over weeks. A living AI chip, however, consumes only milliwatts, thousands of times less energy, because biological neurons are inherently low-power devices. The brain, after all, runs on roughly 20 watts, less than a light bulb. If you could scale that biological efficiency into computing, you could have a data center that fits in a shoebox. Then there's plasticity, the ability to adapt to new information instantly. GPUs, once trained, are frozen until retrained. But biological neurons continuously reshape their connections. Perhaps the most profound implication lies in their potential to blur the line between computing and consciousness. Because these chips are composed of living neurons, they exhibit spontaneous activity, electrical oscillations not directly programmed by humans. Some researchers describe this as proto-conscious behavior. The system generates internal states independent of direct input. Whether or not these chips could ever be truly sentient is a philosophical question, but their unpredictability and creativity may make them the first computers capable of true intuition, a quality no silicon circuit has ever achieved. The companies leading this race are working in near secrecy. Several biotech AI startups have emerged, promising to commercialize what they call wetware processors. Others are being incubated by major tech players who see the writing on the wall. The GPU era, built on brute force computation, cannot scale forever. The cost, heat, and inefficiency of GPUs are already choking innovation. Living AI chips, on the other hand, promise exponential performance growth without exponential power draw. For industries like robotics, autonomous systems, and scientific research, this could mean self-learning machines that genuinely understand their environments rather than merely react to them. Of course, integrating living tissue into hardware isn't simple. The chips must keep neurons alive, nourished, and stable under operational conditions. This requires microfluidic systems that deliver nutrients and remove waste, essentially creating a tiny life support ecosystem inside each processor. They're not chips in the traditional sense. They're living systems housed within technological shells. But advances in synthetic biology are rapidly making this possible. With CRISPR-engineered neurons, self-healing membranes, and nanoscale scaffolds, living circuits can now last months instead of hours. Ethical concerns are also beginning to surface. If a chip can learn, adapt, and potentially develop internal experiences, does it have moral standing? Could training such a system be considered a form of manipulation? Regulators and ethicists are scrambling to catch up, recognizing that these hybrid entities occupy a gray area between machine and life form. It's not just a technological question, it's a civilizational one. What responsibilities will we have toward our creations once they cross the threshold from inert code to living intelligence? Imagine the possibilities. Prosthetics that learn from their users like extensions of the nervous system, drones that navigate intuitively without GPS, AIs that can sense emotions through shared neural responses. Living AI chips could also lead to breakthroughs in medicine, since their biological cores are fundamentally compatible with human tissue. That means seamless integration between the brain and machines, neurointerfaces that don't just read signals but genuinely communicate with the mind. For decades, Moore's law has been our guiding principle, doubling transistor counts, having costs, chasing incremental gains. But the first living AI chip breaks that paradigm entirely. Growth is no longer measured in transistor density but in neural connectivity and learning depth. Computing is no longer just physics, it's biology. The CPU and GPU were tools. The living AI chip is an organism. The shift now underway may echo the dawn of the internet or even the discovery of electricity. Moments when human technology transcended a boundary and reshaped civilization. The first living AI chip is more than just an invention. It's the birth of a new species of intelligence, one that may eventually surpass us not by being faster or bigger, but by being alive. And when that happens, the age of GPUs will be remembered as a stepping stone. A brilliant but ultimately limited chapter in humanity's quest to recreate the miracle of the mind.